Welcome everyone in this fine day. I'm here in San Diego and I would like to talk to you about a myth that your timing cannot be taught as a hitter. And it's a particularly difficult one because players tend to believe it because of all the proof you make out so many times. And it's now the beginning of Major League spring training, and the minor leaguers are going to report here real soon if they haven't already. And, Major League season is going to begin in April, and the minor leaguers soon after that. Independent ball is going to start. High school has already started. Little League has started. They're playing games and practicing all over the country. And it's a really exciting time of the year. Yet, and everybody's expectation is really high. I'm going to have a great season this year. It all comes down to timing. If you don't have a good sense of timing. So let's look back. I'd like to just look back and kind of empathize with what you're going through right now. I remember being in the big leagues, and one of my teammates and I were sitting there talking, and for some reason that day we were hitting back to back, and we're playing with the Detroit Tigers, and one of us said, God, why are we swinging at balls over our head and in the dirt? Why are we jumpy? What's going on right now? And so the conclusion that we came to was, well, we must not be seeing the ball, because if we're seeing the ball, then why would we swing at a ball over our head? Or why would we see the ball or swing at the ball in the ground or in the dirt? And why would we get jumpy if we were seeing the ball? And that made sense, of course, on a small level. And so I thought, okay, let's go to my no stride that I would yank out every once in a while, and I would do that in order to let the ball travel. I think it's very important for players to know the high kick, the low kick, the stride and swing, which should be the most popular because it's the most efficient. You step to hit the ball, you step to shift your weight into the ball, which is the most popular, which was the most popular up till about 1998 or something, probably 2000, when all the problems came in, when people started to say, get your foot down early. And the whole issue is, it's like throwing. You wouldn't tell someone to get their foot down early when you're throwing. You just shift your weight. You commit your weight shift, and then your foot comes down wherever your weight shift goes. That's like if you're striding in the bucket, if you're stepping in the bucket, the fix isn't to put something behind you. The fix is the fact that you're leaning away, you're falling away. Well, your foot's just going to come down wherever you're falling. Okay, so anyways, the timing issue, it can't be taught. People say, well, this can't be taught. Well, so here I was doing my no stride, and I said, you know what? I am not going to even move a muscle until I see the ball out of this guy's hand. Okay, so here I am hitting, and I'm looking at the pitcher, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to move at all. I'm just going to be ready, like I'm getting ready to run to second base. I'm going to steal second base like I'm so fast, right? Okay, so here I am up to bat, playing with the Detroit Tigers. I think it was 89 or maybe even 1990. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm not seeing the ball, so I got to see it out of his hand. So I'm up there, and I'm waiting to see it, and it's just before release. You'd lose confidence all of a sudden. Well, what if a curveball's going to come, or what if the ball's going to be high, or you just start thinking. And of course, I got jumpy again. So I was like, okay, if seeing the ball out of the hand isn't the issue, then what is the issue? So then the issue came up, well, can timing be taught? Some people there are a few people in the world that have less trouble than others, but every Hall of Famer would admit that they've had trouble being jumpy, or they've had trouble with their timing. Hence the 300 batting average. You're making 7 outs out of 10, even though that doesn't mean that they're only hitting 3 balls hard each game. They're hitting the ball. If you want to get 2 to 3 hits a game, you need to hit the ball hard 2 to 3 times a game, even 3 to 4 times a game to get 2 to 3 hits on average. If you want to get 1 hit a game, you need to hit the ball hard at least twice to guarantee a hit. So to hit 500 or something like that, you got to hit the ball hard every time up just to hit 500, or just hit 400. I mean, if you crush the ball, and I don't mean hit the ball on the barrel. I mean smoke it. Smoke it so hard that it sounds different off the bat, so that you hit it, and let's say you hit it at the outfielder. The outfielder comes in, goes back, and doesn't, can't play it, and it hits 3 feet in front of them, where all they had to do is just walk up and put their glove out and they got it. So, I mean, I used to, as a catcher, look at hitters that would crush the ball on the ground or low, like, low one hoppers through the infield. And, they were hitting for high average. Well, how could they hit the ball on the ground? Because they were hitting the ball the infielder could not move. Kirby Puckett was one of those guys. He would hit the ball. I remember one time, Sparky Anderson says, let me call the game. Because, I mean, Kirby Puckett was one of those guys who could hit any pitch, over his head, whatever. He was considered a bad ball hitter. And so Sparky Anderson goes, let me call the pitches. So I said, fine, you call the pitches. So he called the pitch. The first pitch, he called a curveball up over his head, smokes it in Minnesota, off the baggie, opposite field. And he goes, you got it. I'm not calling any more pitches. So it was kind of like, all right, so I'll go back to calling game. But when in fact, good timing comes from a lot of different variables. There are hitters who hit the ball more often because they have better timing. So what is that? Well, the myth says that you either have good timing or you don't. That's just not true. Good timing comes from something, all right? There are reasons why you have good timing. And good timing is one of the things that I've been teaching for 20 years. So players right now, you guys are struggling with having good timing. You don't have the ability to cope with the pitcher. You don't have the ability to filter out all the information that's going on, and then you get jumpy, and you're not up there hitting like you would be playing catch. So there are ways to desensitize, and it's important to learn that. You owe it to yourself, like I was saying about the strides, to have a high leg kick, to have a low leg kick, to have a no stride. You owe it to yourself to learn those things with timing, because they all perform a different function. The high leg kick, what it did was it forced people to commit to their transfer, so they committed to a coordinated stride and transfer. So that helped the people who were trying to get their foot down early and then hip sliding, right? The no stride, what that does is that helps you let the ball come to you. It forces you. You can't go out and get a ball very much. Although if you have a nice flat swing, you can reach further, especially if you lower your center of gravity. You have a longer reach. You have a 3-4 foot range even on a no stride. So having good timing, there are a lot of factors, but it can be taught. It is taught. It is learned. Good timing is a learned behavior. So you hitters that are struggling out there, fret not. It's not. You don't have to fret. It is something that can be taught. You can become a great hitter. You want to actually be able to go up there and hit like it's soft toss. You want to be able to go up there and hit as free and as natural, where the pitcher throws the ball and you just smoke it like you're hitting soft toss. You're fully committed to hitting. You wouldn't freeze in soft toss, would you? Some people say, well, I'm just not swinging the bat, or, I'm freezing. Well, if you're hitting soft toss, you're up there to swing the bat. I mean, if they throw a ball, 15 feet over your head, you're not going to swing. If they roll the ball on the ground, you're not going to swing. If they throw it right there, you're going to swing. There's not a scenario where you wouldn't swing because you're up there to hit. So there are reasons why your good timing is better. Now, there's also reasons why even in soft toss, you can practice in a way that actually hurts your timing in the game, in the same way you can practice in a way in the batting cage that hurts your timing in the game. So there are these simple methods that takes very short time. 6 to 8 weeks, I have players completely transformed with their brutally efficient mechanics, the laser-focused mindset, so they have the major league plan, and they have natural timing like one of the best natural hitters in the game. I mean, you'll have as good a timing as you do when you're playing catch. When you're playing catch, you're holding your glove out there, you're timing the ball. You're not jabbing at the ball, you have good timing. Because you're not jabbing at the ball, because you're letting it get to your glove, you have good timing. So you'll have as good a timing as that once you understand how to practice, how to rehearse, how to prepare. Oh, well, you're not supposed to think. Wait a minute, you are supposed to think. One of the things that used to really bother me is when I used to get ready to hit, I'd always want to know what the pitcher was throwing. If the pitcher had a split finger, well, the ball tumbled. It looked different. If they, had a fastball or a sinker or something, I wanted to know what it looked like before I went up there to hit. And so, I asked one of the coaches, hey, what's it got? What does it look like? Or, and I would hear, and now, of course, not from everybody, but when you'd hear it, it was kind of irritating. You'd hear, don't worry about it. Just, quit thinking, just go up there and hit. Well, they assume if you're not hitting well that you're thinking too much. Well, wait a minute. No. If you're asking those questions, you're doing something about the fact that you're thinking too much. You're thinking too much because you don't have a plan. Thinking too much means your mind doesn't know what to focus on to prepare for hitting, to prepare to focus on playing catch, let's say, to prepare your body to swing the bat. One of the perfect examples is I've worked with players in the minor leagues who, shortly after they're in the big leagues, happened to me as well. Once you get the plan, once you learn timing, boom, the process is quick no matter how old you are. And I remember a young player, Tyler Moore. He was struggling with 300 something at bats, hitting 195, and great hitter. But he was just struggling. He had a lot of strikeouts. I mean, guys were just throwing it right down the middle, and he'd be fouling it off. He was doing some things with his timing that was increasing the timeline. I saw it. It was obvious, but he'd been burned so many times. I don't blame him. Hitting coaches have been telling him this, try that for so long. He just wanted, listen, you're going to make an out. You'd rather make an out having made the decisions yourself about what you're going to do. So I completely understood. So there were other players that would come. They'd send players to me and from the organization. And one of the players came down about the same time that Tyler Moore was struggling. And the guy's name was Bill Reinhardt. Great hitter, been a prospect in the organization for 3 or 4 years. And his rise to the top about 3 years earlier was like a meteor. And then it just fell. It fell off. Well, I saw him in spring training. I didn't even know who he was. And immediately I saw, oh my gosh, you're leaking, you're doing all these things that would affect your timing. So it's not just the timing of the pitch, it's also your mechanics about what you're doing. Are the timelines long? Are you leaking so that you can't judge your timing? Are you leaking means leaking energy? So, I just said something. He didn't know who I was, so he was like, "Hey, screw you! I don't know I don't know who you are." And meanwhile, I was there earlier. I was at when the major leaguers were there. I just showed up, and I was there for no more than a couple of minutes. And Ryan Zimmerman came up to me and goes, "Hey, Nokes, you should come here more often." Said, "Hey, what's going on?" As major leaguers, it's a fraternity, and it's nice. It's nice that you get welcomed. That the players that came before you, that you listened to, and I used to do that. Anytime I saw a veteran player, a guy that came before me, I would always go up to them and ask them questions and welcome them and give them a hug, give them a handshake, whatever it was. Or when they came down from the stands, man, I'd run up to them and I'd try to make them feel very special. Because, hey, they're coming down to say hi. I'm not, as soon as they're out of the game, what are you going to do, act like they didn't play? No, they set the standards for you. Shoot, I'm thankful for them. So, but in any event, your timing is something that can be taught and needs to start being taught. It's one of the most misunderstood processes of hitting. But there are a lot of variables, but they're simple variables. So players are starting Little League. They're starting high school all over the country. They're starting the minor league spring training. Major league spring training is already started. The minor league spring training for the majority of them will start on March 1st. And then the games start to happen, and spring training, all the exciting stuff that happens. The major league season starts when it's cold in the east. And man, I remember in playing with the Detroit Tigers. I played for 10, 11 years in the big leagues. And I came up in the San Francisco Giants organization, and then I was traded to the Tigers. So I had my first cup of coffee with the Giants and went to the Tigers. So I'm in Lakeland, and so the first time I made the major league team out of spring training, we get up there, and it's like a 15 below zero wind chill factor. And it's like you can't feel your hand. You throw the balls like an icicle. It's like an ice cube. Like there are no seams, so you can't feel your hand. You're putting your signals down as a catcher. You can barely move your fingers. You're trying to heat them up as best you can. You're running around doing whatever you can. You're throwing the balls often as you can so you don't hurt your arm. And the next day it'd be 70 degrees in Detroit. I guess the thing that they say, if you don't like the weather, wait a day or wait an hour. But it's a crazy experience. It's just such a glorious time of year, the beginning of the baseball season. You see people at the ballparks all bundled up in their warm clothes, and same with the people in the dugouts. I went to Yankee Stadium, the Old Timers game, a while back, and it was a hot day. It was smoking hot, and I went in the dugout. I was sweating like crazy, and I went into the dugout, and I'm sitting there, and it's like 30 degrees cooler. I'm like, what is going on here? It's an open dugout. I look behind me. There are these giant, open, round, blowers that are blowing air conditioning air. And then in the winter, it's heated air. It's like, oh my gosh, made the, warm dugout, so you're always warm, ready to go. Man, and then walked in, I saw the batting cages and all this. We used to hit Yankee Stadium. I mean, yeah, it was like a country club, but man, our batting cage, you go back, we call it the dungeon, right? But anyways, a lot of upgrades, and I'm glad for them. I'm glad. That's the way it should be. I remember at the end of my career, I played with the Baltimore Orioles for a little bit, and then with the Colorado Rockies. But when I was with the Orioles, I remember they updated, Camden Yards. I love the old ballpark in Baltimore. I hit a lot of home runs there, and I loved it for that reason. But Camden Yards is another great ballpark to hit home runs too. So, but that was the new ballpark, and I loved it there. And but man, you walk in the clubhouse, you're like, oh my gosh, the lockers are real. I mean, you have everything you need. The weight room, the batting cages, everything you need to play optimally is awesome. So that is something that to look forward to as the young players aspire to play in the big leagues. It's like, hey, but remember, wherever you play right now is the big leagues for you. Wherever you play. Sparky Anderson, remember, that didn't come from me, it came from him. He said, Matthew, he had to send me down one year, and he said, just remember, wherever you play, that's the center of the world. Wherever you play, that is the big leagues for you. So go out there and be aggressive and have a good season. Don't think about anywhere where you're going. Yes, have your dreams to play in the major leagues, but set your goals every day low enough so that you can achieve them. And so I did that, and I was in the big leagues by that next year and hit 32 home runs the first year, and off I was. So, playing in the big leagues is an amazing goal for you young players out there who are in Little League and high school and college. And this is such an exciting time of year. Minor league spring training and minor league and major league spring training is great. Your timing is your number one problem right now. You need to address it. You have to address your timing. If you're not addressing your timing, you're wasting your time up there. Listen, you were shoved out into competition at 8 years old. You had no idea what you were doing. Maybe 10 or 12 years later, you're in high school at the end of almost ready to go into college. And you're stronger, you're faster, you're more coordinated, you maybe your swing is a lot better. But you don't know any more than you did when you were in high school, when you were in Little League. When you're in high school, you don't know any more than you did when you were 8 years old, when they trotted you out in Little League, not knowing what you were. It's like it's like playing in a band, shoving a trumpet in your hands and saying, hey, go perform this recital with us, and you don't know how to play the instrument. Oh, we'll teach you as you go. It's like, what? I don't know how to play this at all. I don't even know how to hold the instrument. Oh, we'll teach you as you go. It's like, that's how we discover baseball, and we wonder why we have problems with our timing. So, having said that, our timing issues can be fixed. If you're wondering if you have such trouble with your timing, if you can be fixed, you can be helped. Everyone can have good timing. You can have good timing to the nearest foot. The players that work with me have their timing prepared. They are ready to go from before the game, all the rehearsals that they do. Your rehearsals are what you do without the ball. Your drills are what you do with the ball. So the rehearsals lack the performance of the ball so that you can get some work done, so that you can get your mind and your body prepared. So when I was working with these young players in the minor leagues who got to the major leagues afterwards, I'd be flipping them underhand, soft toss, and I noticed it was ground ball, pop-up, ground ball, and then they start hitting line drives. So I gave them a couple days. About 3 days later, I said, what are you doing? They go, what do you mean? I go, why does it take you 5 swings to hit a line drive? And they're like, well, I'm just getting warmed up. I go, you don't get it. I go, you got to figure out how to prepare your mind, your body, and your motions so that you're ready for the first swing. If I put a ball on the tee and I'm not quite looking, you should hit that ball so hard that it sounds different. You know how to prepare yourself. So if I'm flipping the ball, you hit the ball, I sit up and notice, like, who is this? It sounds different. You want an opportunity to get in the lineup? Listen, the higher you go, it's not just, oh, you have potential. You may have been playing your whole career because you're a good athlete and you have potential. And they may have put you in the lineup all the time. And now all of a sudden you're not in the lineup and you feel bad. Wait a minute. It gets more objective as you go. It's not pay to play. It's objective. You have to be the better player. Trust me, if you can hit the ball better, if you're a catch and throw guy, catch and throw young lady, you have a great arm, a great glove, and you can hit a little bit, even if you can show that when you do hit the ball, it sounds different. You are going to be put in that lineup. So you need to know how to have good timing, how to have efficient mechanics, and how to understand the plan so that when you get your pitch, you never miss it. So anyways, I go with these players. As soon as I taught them, this one player, Tyler Moore, first game after I gave him the information, first game he hit 4 hits as if it was underhand. Then he went on to, from 195 with a handful of home runs and a couple dozen RBIs, he ended up hitting 270, ended I think 1 point lower after that at the end of the season. And then he had 31 home runs from a half dozen, 31 home runs and 111 RBIs and 43 doubles. That was in 6 weeks. Player of the week 4 times and ended up Carolina League Player of the Year. How do you do that? You do that by learning to be on time. People say, well, you can't do anything about it. Yes, you can. Timing is a learned process, and you can learn to prepare your mind, your body, and your emotions to have good timing so that you could, you're syncing the ball up. If you're just sitting in the dugout playing grab ass, not being ready or waiting for someone else to show you what you got to do. Listen, every moment at the ballpark, there's something to do. And if you are that player that goes to the ballpark and it's scripted out, you know your routines. That's what I do with my players. I script it out. When I used to, as a player coach, I would assign one player to follow me to get ready for the game. And I'd show them, this is how you get ready for the game. I'd hit them in the lineup right behind me. And I'd say, this is how you hit, this is how you warm up in the on-deck circle. This is what you do. And the comment that I got all the time was, wow, I don't have a second. As soon as I get to the ballpark, I don't have a minute of my own. I have to prepare the whole time. There's something to do every moment. Yeah, you're not working the whole time, but you're focused, you know what you're doing, you're spending time for yourself to meditate, to get quiet, or whatever it is. Self-care, whatever you need to do to get ready to play, to be at your best, that's what you need to do. So yeah, it's an exciting time of year, and I encourage you guys that you can do something about it. If you're having problems, go to callnokes.com. Go to callnokes.com. Listen, if you don't think that you can be helped, it's a myth. If you think your timing is just something that you can't do anything about, it's a myth. If you're looking at players and you wish you could hit like them, or you secretly desire that you were a better hitter than them, or that you could at least hit to their potential, well, guess what? If you had better timing, you would hit better. You would get more opportunities. You would be in the lineup if you were the person that could hit. If you were the young lady or the young man that could hit the ball in a way that it sounded different, you'd be in the lineup. So get the Major League plan. Anything else is amateur hour.